This is a fairly major story. It's actually one that will impact myself, it will impact my studio, it will impact a lot of game developers that make games that you play. This is pretty crazy. For a long time, we devs have been feeling more and more, I would say, betrayed and ignored by the engine maker Unity. In a world where you look at Unreal Engine and see the march of progress, while Unity's technical people do great things, we do see them off chasing other industries and making business moves that are particularly worrisome. In fact, almost a year to the day, I launched a video in this channel about another wave of developers essentially having a bit of a rebellion. Today, though, it's an even more crazy situation. And I want to start setting the tone today with a quote from former Electronic Arts executive John Riccitiello, who is currently the CEO of Unity. He explained the strategy by saying this: "You're 6 hours into Battlefield, you run out of money, we now charge you $1 to reload, and you're far enough in that that's going to be something that you feel okay about." So he actually did use an analogy of a paid microtransaction reload. Of course, that never came to pass, but the point is, that's the kind of analogy he used. That's the sort of thinking that is going on. Recently, he said this: if you're a 7-figure developer, you can afford $75 a month. True, but if you're not, you can just get started or choose for an artistic reason to give your games away for free. Or if you're a hobbyist screwing around or a student, this is free. You get the full power of Unity 5 for free. There's no royalties, no fucking around. It's simple. That's really what we're announcing. Things have somewhat changed since then, though, because only a weekend after Unity highlighted the performance of Sea of Stars, a game that's on Game Pass, getting humongous amounts of downloads and has separately sold over 250,000 copies, they have managed to, single-handedly create an insane drama for themselves and actually worry developers. And this all started with a blog post on the 12th of September, and it was released right at the same time as Apple's big showcase. I wonder if they were trying to bury that news in tech circles. The title is Unity Plan Pricing and Packaging Updates. Pretty, simple name for something that's going to generate a lot of rage, because this is a update to Unity's licensing plans, designed, of course, to get more money out of users. Now, in this, there are some more minor elements. As an example, they are removing the Unity Plus service tier, which was a smaller scale one used by smaller indie developers and perhaps, some solo devs, right? It's replaced by the much more expensive Unity Pro. And while that may have a bit of a sting for some, where things get a lot more spicy is this: we're introducing a Unity runtime fee that is based on each time a qualifying game is downloaded by an end user. We choose this because each time a game is downloaded, the Unity runtime is also installed. They're basically saying, right, we're two products: the Unity editor, the Unity runtime. You'll have your Unity subscription that will, pay for however many seats you have that have access to the Unity editor, and then we will charge you based on how many times the Unity runtime is distributed, which of course means anytime your games are downloaded, right? And they say this because, yes, each time a game is downloaded, the Unity runtime is also installed. Also, we believe that an initial install-based fee allows creators to keep the ongoing financial gains from player engagement, unlike a revenue share. Now, how does this work? Well, you have to pass a revenue threshold to be eligible. At the Free and Plus tier, that revenue threshold is $200,000, and it's $1 million for the Pro and Enterprise tiers. Now, you might think, 200 grand in the bank? Fantastic. Here's the thing, though. What if your game costs 250 grand to make, right? And maybe you got a publisher. That would mean that you will have, say, sold 200 grand worth of copies. You will have not made back, you won't have made back money. And the bill for this sort of thing will come due, right? This will come due in a pretty damn bad time for you, because you've now got to work out, okay, how is my studio being funded? I'm not seeing revenue from the game that, we released that just came out. And it's very rare. Let's say a game's budget is $250,000. It's pretty damn rare that a game is able to cover its production budget in a month or two, right? So this may seem kind of not that big, but that's actually a really bad time to have the bill. Also, interesting, this is charged to the developer? What about the publisher? because it's rev share everywhere, but then, well, the developer doesn't pay based on rev share. The developer gets to pay on a per install basis, which, oh boy, there's more. There's wrinkles to that. Now, then you have to pass an installation threshold on a lifetime scale to be eligible, which is 200,000 at the free and plus tier and 1 million at the pro and enterprise tier. Then fees are structured to basically allow for some allowances of scale. 20 cents per install at the free and plus tier, and then that scales from 15 cents to 2 cents per install for each more than 1 million installs per month at the pro and enterprise level, with a special caveat that if your game is installed in an emerging market, there will be a significantly lower flat rate. That's of course because a lot of mobile games are big in low revenue per user regions, at least say on a US dollar basis. And then you can get some credits for the fee if you integrate more of Unity's technologies beyond the editor, like say their gaming services or their mobile ad support. Yeah, you can see how this is kind of working now. So companies want money, licensing fees, those are not a particularly new thing. Now, Epic Games, right? The creators of Unreal Engine, their toolset is free, but the understanding is that if you make a big old box game with it, then you have the first million be royalty free, and anything past that, they take 5%. And of course, because that's based on revenue and it's going up to a fairly high number there, I think the idea is, hey, you make money, we make money. Everyone's happy enough. Now, this install threshold is also a bit of a new question, and at which point developers and the general audience then really found it become rapidly clear that this is one of the more poorly thought out deals for game developers that really many of us have seen in a very, very, very long time. And they put out a Q&A. The Q&A is quite bizarre. So, the Unity runtime fee does not apply to our film, gambling, or education subscription plans at this time. So if you're an industrial plan or gambling, you don't have to worry. It's just game and app developers. You are invoiced monthly based on the installs in a given month, and the installations are just defined as installation and initialization of a project on an end device. Now, this is the big thing. There's some good, there's some bad. The fees will only start being generated from January 1st, 2024. The bad news, all of the installation threshold requirements, those are retroactive, right? So, yeah, if you have big install numbers, yeah, you're just going to be straight into this. Now, there's a lot of problems here if you apply some of the old human brain thinking to this question. So, the more people who install your game, especially on the perhaps razor-thin margins that you'd planned before any of this became apparent, the more money you then have to pay Unity. And your installation of a game can then actually actively harm a developer, which is fairly crazy. I did enjoy, of course, Chris Wilfart, funny Twitter account, many good funny things. Pirate game, delete it, download it again. Keep on doing it. Company loses $600. Fantastic. So, let's talk about the problems that developers and community members have highlighted, and then Unity's attempts to squirm their way out of this, because there is quite a large amount of trust me bro in this. Okay, let's start with some problems. Hello Unity, how are installs tracked or monitored? How is revenue determined? Do pirated installs count, and how would that be determined? Aside from other issues that many people have raised, are we going to see more games delisted to avoid incurring additional costs? There are so many thoughts here. I mean, make a game. Game is freemium. Game makes 200 grand from in-app purchases after being installed 3 million times. Now owe Unity 20 cents per 2.8 million installs, 560 grand. That's 360 grand more than we've made. Yeah, this is one that is quite funny with the, with the freemium mobile model. Also, publishers are talking about things. So, Devolver Digital, you may have heard of them. Definitely include what engine you're using in game pitches. It's important information. What a well-timed post from them. Because you've got to remember with all this stuff, you sell your game. Valve takes 30%. Then that's split between you and your publisher. Then you are charged the money. Like, that is... That's pretty rough because of where this is probably going to happen, like in the waterfall, at least based on how they're talking about it. Developer AgroCrab pointed out that if you put your game onto Game Pass, that's potentially millions of installs that you could potentially be asked to pay a licensing fee for. And, well, while it may not be you, actually, as it transpires, Unity have a response to this, and I don't think the industry is going to be particularly pleased by it. I mean, hey, what about giving access of your game to people for free for a free weekend? Maybe the Epic Game Store free game option. That could now cost you money. For Over the Moon Games, they've said here, hey Unity, our game The Fall was on Epic Games as a free game. I was quite happy to sell them the rights for peanuts, and the game was installed like 7 million times. How do you propose this will work? I'd owe you more money than I've made in my life. That's insane. Again, what are Unity thinking? Then, of course, there are developers talking about just abandoning the engine. You know, they're saying like, all right, you know what, screw it. Here's one from Aaron. We've used Unity 11 years now at Flipfly, and I've been teaching kids how to make games with it at a non-profit for 3 years. After today's egregious announcement, I'm actively planning to move us all to an engine with less hostile practices, because yes, be it Unreal Engine, be it Godot, there are other engines out there and people are potentially quite interested in moving now. I would bet a decent amount of money if I could port everything in CUD. I think that's Caves of CUD, which there's a really good Mandalore gaming video on. Either that or Seth, I forget. But anyway, the only thing we'd lose is mobile and console, which is big enough to stick around, but it probably won't be a blocker forever. Cult of Lamb! Buy Cult of Lamb now, because we're delisting it January 1st. That's certainly fun. Others have pointed out the potential for harassment here, like, yeah, you could pirate a game, install it to 500 virtual machines, and you've potentially hurt a game developer. People may say that's insane, but like, look, people are technologically proficient. They can do spooky shit with virtual machines, right? Of course, Game Maker, Default Engine, Godot, and even Tim Sweeney have chimed in on all of this, Epic saying that they've got no plans to change their perpetual license model, right? And they're going to do it so that, like, they can't change the deal that they've made with you when you sign on. Just a whole bunch of the whole industry just taking this as the easiest marketing win they could possibly get. There's actually some talk of a class action lawsuit coming from developers, but ultimately then, the point here is that Unity just decided to change the rules of things, the rules of the game really arbitrarily, because this is almost like a new utility cost, the way that you've got to pay, or at least they want to start charging you for Unity runtime deployments. And again, as you'll soon see, all on a trust me bro basis. And what's being said here? I already committed to their engine for my new game, put years of work into my pipeline. I did so under a simple per-seat license I'm happy to pay. Now when I'm close to release, they spring something new on me. Not a price increase, a fundamental change in how we do business together. And that really, that is the point here. So let's talk about the clarifications and the regrouping. By the way, if you want to do some supporting of, a game developer, we're a game developer. Our first game, The Pale Beyond, is of course on Steam. And it's made in Unity, but hey, I guess if you buy it before the 1st of January, we won't be charged like, I don't know, 15 or 20 cents. But also, if you want to check out store.bellular.games, we have got our art book and all those lovely things there. Man, what a story. Okay, so obviously Unity did put out some press responses here. Let's go through them. Unity will only receive aggregate data from various sources, so they'll be working off estimates, not hard one-to-one numbers. Because people were wondering, like, hey, what, does the Unity runtime phone home to give you a number? No, it doesn't. They have some proprietary method of working this out in a method with no transparency that is literally just, trust me bro, we'll bill you accurately. So that's cool. Demos won't count, but only if they aren't the same build of a game that allows players to continue progression. So for actually quite a few demos, that's really quite bad. Early access games, they will count. As to fraudulent stuff, right? So somebody spinning up the game on a bunch of virtual machines. I don't even know how they catch that. But again, trust me, bro. They say that they have fraud detection stuff that they built for their ad platform. They can handle it. and they'll have a way for developers to submit their concerns. Again, presumably after the developer has been charged. And if a developer is just charged, let's just say 30 grand, 40 grand, that's going to be very bad for their cash flow, right? Especially if it's soon after a game is launched and the money hasn't came in yet. You're just going to fire a torpedo at a developer right when they actually need that cash flow. Again, this is absolutely crazy. They also did confirm that they will be applying the threshold to the lifetime installs of the game. And also, web and streaming games built with Unity also do count because everything that runs the game is counted in some way. Now, Steve Totillo of Axios then went and got a bit more info, and there was a second round of updates from that QA about reinstalls after a sort of regrouping within Unity. Apparently, if the same game is reinstalled on the same device, it won't count, and somehow Unity can tell that. Again, very suspicious. But if a game is installed on a new device or new hardware, that counts. So imagine this. I'm a developer, sell a game in Unity. You install that on your PC, then you install it on your Steam Deck. For some reason, I, the developer, am charged twice for that, even though you're doing it under one license of the game that you own. Charity bundles will be exempt from fees, and Unity will somehow provide a way for developers to notify Unity. Again, how's this going to actually work, you know? Subscription fees will fall upon the distributor, not the developer. So this is quite an odd one. This means that, say, Microsoft will be facing large fees for every Unity game they list on Game Pass, like, say, the smash hit Sea of Stars. Now, if Sea of Stars, like, whenever I boot up my Xbox to play Starfield, what do I see when I go to Game Pass? Sea of Stars. Like, it's probably been downloaded millions of times. And, you know, that could actually get to a stage or a state. Like, obviously the Sea of Stars devs are like, okay. But again, you know, how much money did Microsoft pay for that? And could Microsoft end up paying more in Unity license fees than the payout that was given to the developer, right? Like, that's actually potentially a concern. And maybe that is all part of Unity's plan because they're seeing, again, via their proprietary method. Maybe they look at all of these freemium mobile games and all these like Game Pass, Epic Game, you know, free games. Maybe they see all this and just look at the sheer amount of downloads and they're trying to find a way to monetize that. I mean, it very much looks like that's the case. Now, of course, these updates, you may notice that these aren't really better because everything is somehow relying on Unity's completely undefined, trust me bro, data gathering, and it's somehow being able to identify legitimate installations by some method, even though the runtime doesn't phone home and they seemingly only are using aggregate data, and the end result being that the distribution of your game will inevitably end up costing you in some way because, hey, guess what? If it costs your publisher, that's going to change the deal for you as a developer, especially because any money that something, you know, will cost to your publisher, it's not like you pay, you know, in your recoup, you pay it back 1-to-1. Publisher money costs money. So this is going to, the idea, it's kind of funny. If a publisher is on the hook for, let's just say, 100 grand of fees from something like this, the developer, you know, in some publishing deals, that could cost the developer more than 100 grand because of how the recoups work. So again, a lot of publishing deals would probably need to be changed to account for something like this as, I mean, as a new cost in the balance sheet. And then they're also throwing publishers and distribution partners under the bus. And that means that taking deals with developers can, well, just become less lucrative, right? It's quite crazy. Like, I'm glad that we are making smaller scale PC games where it's like, you know, where that's like a lot better, but still, like, one of the things that really helped us with Pale Beyond is we released a demo, and that meant that we had, suffice to say, everyone was very happy with our wishlist numbers. I think right now we have like 160, 170,000 wishlists, but through like Steam Next Fest and all that stuff, our demo did really good work for us, and there's a chance then that actually some of those demo installs, like some of them technically could be charged. That would really I mean, that would suck. So this is all kind of whack. Again, Mike Bithell here, of course, Bithell Games. The thing that sort of propelled his career, I think a lot that people know about was, like I say, Thomas Was Alone. He's made many projects since. I keep cycling back to this tweet and how hilariously exposing it is. Given their model legally cannot be collecting real user data, it amounts to a guess. A guess they are refusing to break down to those they are hoping to bill. Walk back imminent, but it reveals a lot. Yes, because they say, we leverage our own proprietary data model. And, you know, it's got to comply with GDPR and all that too. And you may think, surely everyone in Unity knew this was happening. Well, yeah, and they were all ignored. Heard from inside Unity, the blog post was reviewed for weeks, and internal concerns about poor/confusing messaging, Game Pass, etc. were all ignored. It's resignation time for some folks. Hopefully we see a walkback, I fear, for Unity. And just a quick little aside about John Riccitiello, the CEO of Unity, the man who wanted to sell you bullets in Battlefield. And last year had to post an apology because of the way that he called some developers. You know what? I don't want to. Sometimes you can get demonetized for swearing, but you know, you can look at my screen and what I'm highlighting right now. This is what he called developers for pushing back against monetization. You know, all right, no. So this is something. I can make no inference about certain pieces of information here. A lot of people are, you know, going quite far in saying certain things, and it would be, you know, a shame if that got them any trouble, right? Got them any sort of notice in the mail. I suppose a lot of people do find some of this information to be curious and pertinent, because on the 6th of September 2023, John Riccitiello, president of and CEO of Unity Software Incorporated, sold 2,000 shares of the company. This move is part of a larger trend for the insider, who over the past year has sold a total of 50,610 shares and purchased none. Of course, please consider this above information about this announcement being planned long in advance, and then think about, of course, John Riccitiello's sale of shares. I make no inference about these two pieces of information. Obviously, though, you're now aware of these bits of information. Think about them what you will. Now, this all appears to be some form of top-down push from the C-suite, with a specific focus on the kinds of games Unity thinks can make them the most money. It's the core thing, and look, you guys probably feel it as gamers. It's like, if you're not the whale, the developers don't care. You look at D4 and you're like, look at all that cool armor. I would maybe play the game to get that armor. Oh no, it costs $30. They're not making it for me, they're making it for the whale. Well, Unity makes it feel like that to us now. Right? And the fact that this does not apply to gambling, and that's an interesting, oh man, it's an interesting thing with gambling. Anyway, it doesn't apply to that. The fact that there are credits if you implement their proprietary advertisement technology, it just says absolutely everything. Look, I fully expect a walkback here. It's either they walk back and they wholesale cut it, or they walk back to a watered down version of it, in which case they'll have made progress. And it could just be the out-of-touch CEOs doing the usual thing, saying it's only a vocal minority, it's only the Twitter users. Real developers won't care. Real developers are too bought into our system. And that actually is partially true. Yeah, you've built your whole pipeline around using Unity. Every month costs you tens of thousands in cash flow, right? To pay for your team. And you want to spend 4, 5, 6 months of, you know, stalling some progress to redo all your stuff on Unreal Engine? That's probably going to be more expensive than these fees from Unity. So you can see they truly do have a captive audience. So that is the situation there. Of course, if you want to get something that is the making of The Pale Beyond, because this is a book, it doesn't have an activation fee. Isn't that insane? Store.bellular.games. Bloody hell, screw the C-suite of Unity, absolutely. My god, the poor people of that company have had to put up being led by these donkeys. It is rough. Right, that's it from me. You can check out yesterday's video, and I will see you again on this channel tomorrow.